Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, June the 19th. It's race number 7 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Let's take a look at an overflow field of fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. This is a first level allowance race, Mike, and it's pretty wide open. You've got several horses coming into this race in good form. The 4 Krickenberger has won 3 of her last 5 starts. She's won 4 times in her career. A couple of recent maiden winners. The 6 Miss Quality Control returns to turf for Brad Cox, but the favorite in this race might go off 3-1.
Yeah, it does seem like there's no real standout, at least on paper, Dan. We'll see how they wind up betting this thing. I thought there were a couple different candidates to go favorite in this race. If nothing else, though, it feels like there's a lot of speed in this race.
That's a very good point. And we throw up our Timeform US pace projector, and they agree with Mike's assessment. Note the red bar, which indicates a fast pace. Yay, hooray, the 11, always wanting the 10. These are horses coming off maiden victories in gate-to-wire fashion. The 1 Bella Cruella, when she won twice at the fairgrounds over the winter, she was up and on the pace. So I expect this pace to be hot, Mike. Krickenberger is a horse that's very tactical. I'm not sure if she's going to be on the lead, but the 6 Miss Quality Control, another horse that can adapt to any sort of pace.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what kind of trip the 6 gets coming back to turf here. Earlier in her career, especially the 2 most recent turf starts, she didn't show a lot of speed in those races, but she has shown it at times, including the race 2 starts back when she was washed off the grass in a stakes race.
Let's start things off with the number 1 Bella Cruella. Again, won twice at the fairgrounds over the winter, then got washed off at Keeneland. You could throw that race out. Really, the race you have to indicate and handicap is the last time. I didn't really see much of an excuse in that Churchill first level allowance race. She went off at a big price. She tracked the pace. She tired.
Yeah, I think it's probably more than fair, Dan, to not be too hard on her for that one. She's 50-1. Just against a way better field. I'm with you. She didn't do a ton of running there. It was hardly inspiring, but I don't know how caught up I want to get in that performance or other turf races. They're okay. A couple of wins back-to-back in cheaper races at fairgrounds earlier this year, and maybe she can improve off of those 2 starts with a good trip coming from the rail.
Habuya is the number 2, and you go back on this filly's form 3 starts back. She earned an 88 Beyer speed figure sprinting on the turf. That was against open horses, and she was against, she ran pretty well. She was sort of in between horses, altered course down on the rail, sort of an even finish. Only got beat a half length. She's won around 2 turns in the past. Is going to have to do this off a long layoff, however.
Yeah, I don't love the layoff, so we'll see how ready she is. And the 88 Beyer, it just seems like an outlier at an odd distance, a race where she was just sort of running late, and it never really looked like she was going to win, but it's still a good performance. And it's not like she's only run well sprinting, Dad. I mean, she's run well going longer. I actually feel like she might be better going longer. So I think they sort of bring her back in the right kind of a spot here. We'll see how ready she is.
Last race off a 10-month layoff. She did face 2 next out winners in that last start. The 3 is Star Wisher. This horse comes out of a first level allowance late fall at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Another even performance. We're into a nice horse. The winner came back, ran second in a second level allowance at the fairgrounds with an 81 Beyer. She kind of was hung out 4 wide on the backstretch all the way through the turn. She was chugging on at the end.
Yeah, I like that she's at least made up a little ground from off the pace in her 2 most recent starts, because the 2 wins, when you go back to, last summer, were right on the front end. And I don't think she's going to beat this field that way, but I like that she's shown a little bit of adaptability since then. Another horse coming off of a layoff here after 2 very closely spaced races there at the end of the year. It feels like those connections wanted to get another start into her, and she ran fine in that race. I did not think she was in overhead against this field either. I don't know if I'd take the 9-2, Dan. I think you might do a little better than that.
Krickenberger, the number 4's, won her last 2 races on turf, including this performance against starter optional claiming foes. This was just a solid performance where she just had to grind it out, and she just gets up to win. It was a pretty fast pace she was chasing. I do give her credit for winning a 3-horse photo.
I do too, and I like that she just upped her game again back on turf for this race, Dan, because she wins this one. The prior turf start, which is last October, she wins that one as well while sitting just off the pace. It feels like she can get the right trip in here. Another horse who's not going to be a great price in here, and I don't know that this would be the kind of race where I'd be taking a short price on anybody, but she's certainly a contender.
Another horse starting back off of a layoff is the 5 Wildcat Justice. We haven't seen her since she tried a couple of state-bred stakes races on the dirt at Horseshoe Indianapolis last fall, but she's run quite well on the turf, including her most recent start, this race on September the 6th. This is for state-breds, and she's going to get up for second. She probably has to improve from a Beyer speed figure standpoint, and she faces open foes off the bench.
Yeah, it feels like that's the main question for her. How much do you think she's going to be able to improve as a 4-year-old? Because, her turf form is fine, and her dirt form is fine, but I think it's pretty clear from the figures that she's been running that she's just going to have to run a faster race if she's going to beat this field off the layoff.
Miss Quality Control is the number 6, going out for trainer Brad Cox. She's been competing on dirt recently, and although she's never won on the turf, she ran really well the last time she tried the surface on New Year's Eve at the fairgrounds in a maiden special weight. She got a good inside-out closer's trip, but she was really running that day against a gate-to-wire winner, a horse that was one of 4 next-out winners to emerge from that race, winning a first-level allowance in her next start with an 81 buyer.
Yeah, I thought she ran well in that race, too. And listen, Pink Polka Dots, who won it, I mean, she's no superstar, but she'd be something to fight against this field. She's a pretty good horse. I would also just point out, Dan, we'll see what kind of price she is. The only turf start here at Horseshoe Indianapolis last November, you have your free formulator PPs. You can click on the short comment there, go watch the replay. She was fourth. She was beaten almost 8 lengths that day. I don't think it's out of the realm to say that she was going to win that race if she got any kind of a trip. I have no idea what her rider was doing that day, but he got her beat.
Squash Blossom is the number 7. This horse made her turf debut last time out and might have just been in a little bit too tough at Keeneland. She was a big price that day. She faced 3 next out winners. The winner came back to win a second level allowance at Churchill with an 85 buyer. So this is likely an easier spot. She still does have a lot to prove.
Exactly. I mean, you get class relief off the most recent turf start, but then you have to judge her off of everything else that she's done. There's no turf races in there, but there are no great performances either, Dan. She's just one of those horses who has to be a lot better on the turf. We'll see if she is.
Can't keep me down. Both of her lifetime wins have come on dirt. She's exiting a dirt race at Churchill Downs where she didn't do anything at all. Her most recent turf race was at Keeneland 2 starts back. That was the same race that produced Squash Blossom, and she finished behind that foe.
That race wasn't good. Really, everything that she's done since the claim hasn't been great, but she did run some pretty good races for Maker on the turf earlier on. We'll see if she can ever get back to one of those races, because a couple of them would make her pretty tough in here.
The 9 is Sweet Miss Maggie, and she's a big price on the morning line for a very good trainer in Michael Stidham. And perhaps you could forgive her one and only turf try because it was her career debut, and she was going 2 turns at the fairgrounds against more experienced horses, including the Brad Cox trained Miss Quality Control. Ever since then, she's run on dirt. She sprinted twice. She did get a victory. I'm not sure she's a star, but I don't want to write her off just yet. We've probably seen the best of some of these other horses. I'm not sure we've seen her best after only 3 starts.
You could do worse than taking a lightly raced horse in a race like this one. The turf debut wasn't a good performance, but it was a pretty solid field. They've cut her back since then and run her on dirt, and she's run okay. And now they're going to stretch her back out on the turf. I wonder if this is actually what she's meant for. I don't know about you, Dan. I have no real good handle on the Omaha Beaches. I'm not sure if they're turf horses.
I think it's probably a little bit too early. Of course, Omaha Beaches by Warfront, an excellent turf stallion. Always Wanting is the number 10, and this one just made the easiest of leads last time out. A maiden special weight. She was in front in the blink of an eye, breaking from post position 9, and she was just able to walk on a 50 2.5 mile, going 1 mile and a 16th, and she has just enough in the tank to hold off the closers. It was by far her best performance. Now she likely, if she's going to use these tactics, will have to go faster in the early part.
It feels like she's going to have to go a lot faster. And she does hold on at the end of this race. Forward move, sure. I feel like the trip that she pulled that day had a lot to do with it, Dan. Don't really trust her in this race, but I won't argue with the 12-1 morning line.
After running on dirt in New York and Kentucky in her first 2 starts, the 11 Yay Hooray might have found a home on turf and might have found a home here on this circuit. Let's watch her maiden special weight victory for trainer Michael Maker. And it's another situation where she got to the lead and she got a nice breather on the backstretch. But I think the best stuff is coming here. It looks like this runner-up's going to make a good, strong run at her, and she just kicks away at this point. I like the last 16th of a mile spurt.
I like that too, because you're right. It did look like that runner-up was coming with good momentum, and she doesn't even get close to her. And I like the way she finished it. I also like what you said. She did make the lead without too much trouble in there, but she had a rival sort of pressing her a little bit early on in that race. Put that horse away, went on with it through the stretch. Really good performance last time.
That runner-up did come back to place in a maiden special at Horseshoe Indy with a 79 buyer. Yay Hooray shows a recent bullet workout. Completing the field, going to have to do it from a tough far outside post, is the 12 Americana Anna. She's coming out of a win against Statebreds on the dirt. She won that race very easily, Mike, and she's a proven competitor on the turf. Maybe she'll get a setup in this race, and I think she's a little better than she looks on paper. Is she slow on paper? Yes, but maybe the setup sort of mitigates that.
Yeah, I guess the question is, Dan, how much does that most recent win there, and I'm with you, it was a good performance, how much does that indicate that she's really improved? Because her turf races last year, I don't know if you agree with this or not, they weren't good.
Evil Intentions is the 13. She's entered main track only. That leaves us with the 14 and 15. They're both also eligible. So I had to take one. I'm a little interested in the 15, Umabashi by the super young stallion Justify. She's only run once on the turf, but that was off a little bit of a layoff. She showed the ability to get close. I think she's going to be a turf horse.
I do too. I feel like I could probably make a reasonable case for either one of the AEs if they get in.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. It's top pick time for race 7 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. I like your top pick, Miss Quality Control. In many ways, I think she's the horse to beat based on that last race at the fairgrounds. 5-1 is a very square price.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to get that. That's the only thing that would hold me back here. Then I kind of feel like she's just going to get bet here and be the favorite, maybe just based off connections. But I would just bet her off of her turf races because I think they're good.
And Star Wisher is repeating that layoff pattern, that first of the year pattern that resulted in a big victory against maiden specials on turf. I would use her as well. Yay Hooray to me is just interesting. She just seemed like a new horse. The light bulb went on turf. She has to prove it wasn't just a trip-aided win on the lead. 6-3-11-2 for Mike, 11-6-10-3 for me. Nice race at Horseshoe Indianapolis on Wednesday. It's the 7th. Good luck.